Hello YouTube, Scant the Wolf here, back with another video for your viewing pleasure. And today it is time to go over the Red discography and rank all of the Red albums from worst to best, from End of Silence to their new album Rated R. So, disclosure, I've been a Red fan for almost a decade and a half now, which is hard to believe. Since roughly 2008, 2009 when I got into Christian rock. So, yeah, I have been a Red fan for a pretty long time. They are still to this day one of my favorite bands of all time. Even though, I will admit there is better music out there, I still kind of hold this band to my heart because I do enjoy a good majority of their music. So, yeah, we're just gonna go over and rank all of the albums. So, let's get started. So, at the bottom of my list, I was kind of having a hard time, debating on which album, which of the two albums that I have at the bottom should be at the bottom. And after thinking it through, I came to the realization that there is no way that this was not gonna happen. So, at least in my opinion, you could differ, but I mean, it's all up to you. So, at the bottom of my list, I have Declaration. Yes, I do think Declaration is Red's weakest album, in my personal opinion. You could beg to differ, but that's just what I think about it. So, like this album, really, the only song that I really say I like, actually, there's two songs that I really like on this album, Cauterize, Sever. Those two songs are pretty much the only songs I could say are top tier Red, in my opinion, that are really good. Other tracks are fine, like Infidel, The War We Made, fine. But, the problem with this is that, this is very, very, very similar to the stuff that Red has done before, I think. Even tracks like The Evening Hate and From the Ashes, I think they've done stuff like that before. Which is why when these songs came out, I was not necessarily blown away by them, as much. I was not blown away by this album, when it came out. In fact, I was just I still like the album, and in fact, it's not bad, it's just decent at best, but it's just, easily not one of their best. And then, on top of that, this album has their worst material on it. All For You is, I gotta be honest, not a good opening track. That, the Come When I Call You part, it's just poorly, conceived. That and, the screaming vocals aren't up to par, I think. Very, no, they're not for me on it. And then you get to garbage songs, Float and Only Fight. These songs are trash, I think. And I can genuinely say that. Float, I don't know what they were thinking in the lyrics and on the vocals or anything. It sounds like something that All That Remains would do. Or something mixed with Starset. Or Breaking, or Evanescence. It sounds like All That Remains trying to be Evanescence. I don't know. It's bad. And then we have Only Fight, which is bad because it's repetitive, and you get tired of him screaming the title over and over again, and it's what were they thinking? What in the world were they thinking when they came up with those two songs? Those songs should have not been recorded. They should not have been put on an album. They should have replaced them with other songs, I think. You can see I have pretty spicy opinions about Declaration, to be honest. It's not a good album, I think. It's okay, but it's just not. It's really the only Red album that I can say is mixed, in my personal opinion. Is I would be it's But yeah, that's just really what it is for me. I cannot get into Declaration other than Cauterize and Sever, and maybe some choice songs like here and there, like that I can respect. But like because of the bad songs on this album, I really, at least with other Red albums, there's no bad songs, like no inherently bad songs on those albums. Like I feel like Float and Only Fight are. So kind of a long kind of rant there, but yeah, Declaration is my least favorite Red album that they've ever done. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, on to the ones that are better. So, I mean, it's still not like the next one that I have here is still not like top tier Red, and I think a lot of people can basically agree that this album's not one of Red's best. Same with Declaration too. Release the Panic by Red. This is not like this is when they were first kind of starting to branch out a little bit with more electronic based, more radio rock, like mainstream rock kind of stuff. Very different from their first three albums at the time because this was more in the vein of like I said, more electronically based. Even though there are some moments, of course, that are more like like akin to like what they would do previously, like tracks like If We Only and stuff like that. But like even these, I feel like are differently like they're differently conceived than like tracks from like what they have previously done. They feel more like radio friendly. And that's because of Howard Benson's production with Mike Plotnikov or whatever his name is producing it. It feels more like radio friendly and stuff. But I mean, like the main thing about this album is not so much the experimentation and the production, which I do like. It's like the fact that like I listen to it and I'm like, yeah, it's good, and there's no like oomph factor to a lot of this stuff on here. Like, I like songs like Perfect Life. I think they're good. Damage, Same Disease is alright. If We Only is a pretty good song. So Far Away. The problem is I just listen to it like it's kind of like what a lot of like active rock kind of does. Like you hear a song and you're just like, yeah, that happened. So I like it, but it's not like one of their best like representations of whatever. So that's basically kind of what it is for this album. Like it's not really their best in my personal opinion. Like it's definitely, if Declaration didn't exist, this would be their weakest in my personal opinion. So like I feel like other endeavors into like their more experimental stuff would go over much better than this. This is just a foot into it, and you know they do it well enough, but I mean it's just the appeal isn't like as pronounced as it should be. So, Release the Panic, good album, not one of their best. Now the next one, I might get some heat for putting this at the third to last because screw it, I'm gonna go with End of Silence. I was debating on whether I should put this one or another album as the third to last on the list, but when I think about it, like End of Silence is like kind of overrated. Yes, this is the album that has like, you know, like their like sound. It establishes their sound, what they should sound like the orchestra and stuff like that on this album. And it is very good. I do think this is a good album. I do like it. But do I think it's like top tier? No. But it's perfectly okay if you do, because that's what opinions are all about. I just don't think this is their best. They didn't necessarily find their groove yet until the later albums, I feel like. And this is still pretty good, but like you have like, of course, stuff like Breathe Into Me, Let Go, and stuff like that. Lost, Already Over. which a lot of people say is like one of the best Red songs, or it is one of the more like promoted songs from Red. Same with Breathe Into Me. Like, but at the same time, like this is really only a 9-track album because one, there's an intro, and then the last song, which is like like already over part two, which is basically another a softer, like more somber version of that song. So it's kind of short in my opinion. Like it's not really that long of an album. But like I said, they do have there is this is a good album. This is definitely a good album. I do think that the production wasn't the best at this time, and I don't know why that is. Like I feel like the guitars are produced kind of mid, but that could just be a personal like thing or whatever. Like, and the orchestras are not like really produced as well as they would be, except on tracks like Pieces. I think Pieces they were produced pretty solid. They just feels like typical Christian production, like Christian music production, I guess. But I guess I'm over complaining about this. Like, yeah, Into Silence is not one of my favorite Red albums. It really has never been, even though like at the time I really listened to this album a lot when I first got it in '09. So I know the songs pretty much a lot, and like I'm at a point like where I'm like I could personally like I could respect tracks like Breathe Into Me like without necessarily hearing them a lot because I get it already. Breathe Into Me of course is a good song. But I guess I'm just going on and on and on about this album. So yeah, Breathe Into Me, good song still. This album's still very good. Even though it's not one of their best, I do enjoy End of Silence. Now the next one, again, I'm gonna get some flack. I have Gone here at number 5, and this is a better experimental album, I think, than the Release the Panic. And I think this and End of Silence are basically on the same level, like to me, in terms of quality, not in terms of like how different they are, or anything like that. But like in terms of like, you know, quality, like. But it is different from like End of Silence, and that like there is stuff where I'm like, oh, that's good, but there is really good stuff on this album, like Step Inside the Violence, Losing Control, Chasing Your Echo, AI. Those 4 tracks are very good, I think. Very good songs. Fracture's even really good. But like I feel like they did this time around, they did the electronics and stuff way better than they did on Release of the Panic, because Release of the Panic felt more radio rockish. This feels like a Red album where like the electronic side takes a more like straightforward approach, kind of like a more front seat than the orchestras and stuff, and they kind of just go like, you know what I'm saying? Like they kind of just like meet in the middle, I guess, and it makes a really good like unique album for the band. I think like this is a very unique album, like, and they have some horns on here, which is something that they've never toyed with before, like, and overall, like, you know, like the experiment went over pretty solidly in my opinion. Like, I understand if Gone you don't like Gone that much. I mean, there is that one Sia cover, Unstoppable, which it's fine, it's good, you know, like I don't hate it. But like there is a lot of stuff on here that is very good, that is underrated, that should be checked out, I think. Yeah. And like the tracks that I recommended are among those. And yeah, I feel like a lot of Red fans, they just want End of Silence, Innocence and Instinct styled music from the band. And that's not necessarily like the real thing. Like if Red continued to make albums that sounded like that, I would get really bored with them. So I'm glad they're experimenting. And this is a good example of that. So Red, with Gone comes in at number 5 on my list. And keeping with the theme of experimentation, I got here Rated R at number 4 on my list. So, this is a great album. I think this is a great album. Like, again, we get some people who are like, it's not their best album or whatever. I do really enjoy this album. Like, I am probably one of the few people that does enjoy this album as much as I do. And it's probably one of their best produced albums, too. Way better than Declaration. Like, it even has the same mixer, too, and they really kicked it out of the park with it. Like, really the only song that I think is, like, mid is Our Time Will Come. But even that, I mean, like, is better than the mid stuff that was on Declaration. So, yeah, I pretty much think, like, all these songs are good. Even, especially, Your Devil's a Ghost, Surrogates, Last Forever, Emergency, The Suffering, Still Bleeding, Cold World, like, Minus It All. Like, I pretty much said, like, about 8 out of the 10 tracks on the album. Even Tell Me How to Say Goodbye is pretty solid as well. But, like, I really can't complain much about this album. Like, it is, like, Red being experimental, but it's, like, from all of their eras. They have, like, the orchestra stuff that's on, like, At a Silence and stuff on here. They have the electronic stuff that was on Gone, kind of. And they have the more, like, radio rock stuff that was on Release the Panic. And they have all the best parts of their career on one album. And that's what you should go into this album. Sorry about that. Sorry, I dropped it. But anyway, what I was saying before, that's what you should go into this album with. Like, that's the mindset that you should go into this album with. It's like a lot of their albums, like, melded into one, and they do some really, really, like, unique things as well. So that's Rated R by Red. I think I even did some damage to that when I dropped it, but thankfully it's minimal. So that's fine, whatever. Now we get to their top 3, and I think there is not much argument here with these. So at number 3 I have Beauty and Rage. I had this at number 2 for a while, but one did manage to, like, change that. But yeah, Beauty and Rage, great album, I think. Very atmospheric, very movie-like. And this is just Red's most dynamically, like, and sonically, like alluring album, I guess. Like, this album is, like, really Red's album, where it's, like, meant to be taken in as a whole, rather than, like as, like, select songs from an album, I guess. Like, and that's really why A Beauty and Rage works how it does, is because, like, a lot of these songs, whether or not that, like, there's tracks that are better than others, all of them are still very good, I think. Like, especially tracks like Imposter, Shadow and Soul, Darkest Part, Gravity Lies, and pretty much a lot of the other tracks on here as well, really seal the deal. Especially, like, the intros and outro and stuff, like the intro and the outro and stuff like that are very good on this album. Yeah, and The Force, which is the instrumental, like, kind of like interlude track, I love that. Like, the interludes are really good on this album, I think. And overall, there's not much to say about it that hasn't been said before, other than, you know, A Beauty and Rage is definitely worthy of being one of the best Red albums in their discography. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. There's tracks like What You Keep Alive that are pretty good. Yours Again, like, as well. So, what am I saying? Definitely go check this out. Now we get to the top 2 here. And we have number 2, Until We Have Faces. And this was at number 3 for the longest time, but you know what? Now it's at number 2. Why? Because this is a great album, I think. This is, like, easily one of the best, in my personal opinion. Yeah, I just think every song on this album really works. Like, especially the two singles, Feed the Machine, Faceless, the first two tracks on the album, very good. Then there's tracks like Lie to Me, Denial, and there's just a ton of excellent stuff on here. Like, I think, like, this is more like melodic, I would say, than the first two albums. But even with that, like, there are heavy moments. Like I said, Feed the Machine and the Outside. Probably the heaviest tracks on the album, but they're still so good. The production is great. Like, they've really stepped it up on the production on this album, I think. Like, they're very well done. And, like, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff to really enjoy about this album. Him for the Missing, very sentimental track. Probably their best ballad like track of, like, with the orchestra and everything. Probably their best of that variety. Best is yet to come is pretty good, I think, even though some people might object to it. Whatever. Um, yeah, there's just like nothing really wrong with this album. I think it's like one of the best albums in their discography, obviously, and one of the best albums of that year, 2011. So yeah, and it's so good. It peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 200. So yeah, it deserved that. So Red, Until We Have Faces, excellent, excellent album. I have a lot of nostalgia for this too because when I went to the Harvest Crusade and saw them, it was during this era. So definitely check this out. Now we go to number 1, and it is obvious at this point. It is Innocence and Instinct, easily their best album in my opinion. Like, this was my first album. I got this copy in particular. I have another copy, but I have this one. I got this one at Berean Christian Bookstore in '09. One of my first CDs. And it is great. It is the best album in my opinion. Like, personally, I think every track on here is good. And if you have the deluxe edition, you have the more complete edition. I really don't think, like if you have either of the standard editions that have either Out From Under or Forever, you're not getting the full experience. This is like a more full experience on here because like I think a lot of these songs are great. In fact, all of them are great. I think, like especially Confession, What's Inside My Head, very underrated song. Shadows, of course, very good. And the singles, undeniably some of the best songs from Red ever. Fight Inside, Death of Me, Never Be the Same. Those three that were singles, very good songs. Like Never Be the Same is actually the song that initially got me into Red, so that's a big fun fact for you there. Ordinary World, a cover from Duran Duran, very good. Yeah, it's a very good like tribute to Duran Duran and what they did on that song. And yeah, definitely good on that respect. And then there's also a lot of good stuff. Take It All Away, which is ballad like Nothing and Everything, which is kind of what Already Over Part 2 was, only this time it's Fight Inside. And it's good. I definitely like it. Shadows, of course, with Ben Burnley as co-writer. Start Again, Mystery of You, definitely some excellent songs as well. And Out From Under and Overtake You and Forever. Overtake You, definitely underrated, I think. And then Out From Under is definitely another underrated song. It is also one of my favorite Red songs because it's just so chaotic. It's so it's so good, and I've always loved it. And yeah, and I've always loved this album. So yeah, that's Innocence and Instinct at number 1 on my ranking. Easily their best album in my opinion, and a lot of people probably think that too. It's kind of what people say about like Hybrid Theory of Meteora from Linkin Park, for instance. They say that the Sophomore album was the better album, and I would agree with that for Red too. And I think there's a lot of more people that would probably think this album is their best than you may think. So, yep, that's my ranking of the Red discography. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. This is Scamp the Wolf signing out. Take care.